Hargraves has struck back at Proudfoot and shown he can take the fight to the champion. Compared to last week, though, Knoxville will open things up and provide plenty of space for the drivers to race. Will the home of sprint car racing put on a good show with the street stocks? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 3 of the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Knoxville Raceway has gone from horses to horsepower in its history. Let's head to our track guide to learn more.
You are looking at the sprint car capital of the world, Knoxville Raceway. Located in Knoxville, Iowa, 45 minutes southeast of Des Moines, Knoxville needs little introduction to racing fans around the globe. Home to the Knoxville Nationals, this half-mile clay oval is known for its blistering speeds despite the relative lack of banking. While the corners here are angled just 8 degrees, Knoxville's wide corners and fast surface have seen the World of Outlaws cars lap this track in 14.4 seconds, averaging speeds around 125 miles per hour. Virtual drivers love Knoxville because it's a multi-lane track that plays into drivers of many different track preferences. Like a slick track, well, you're going to find a home on the inside line to the middle of the track, which is sure to slick off quick in a main event. Makes for great slide job opportunities as well. Want to run up on the cushion? Well, there's plenty of grip to be found up there, and high-speed runs can be made on the exit of both corners here. It results in some of the best side-by-side, back-and-forth racing on the iRacing service. And Knoxville's not just for sprint car fans. Hop into a late model, take a few laps around here, you'll find a car perfectly equipped to handle the high speeds and slicked-off nature of Knoxville. But be careful in the big cars. Both the late model and street stock have a penchant for hopping the berm on the inside of the track. And while there's not necessarily a wall for you to catch down there, that high berm will spin you around before you can blink. The Knoxville Nationals, as we mentioned, run here annually in August. It pays $1 million to the winner. Knoxville Raceway, also home to the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. You can see that just off of turn number 2. Well, that's our look at Knoxville Raceway. What do you say we line them up 4 wide and let the green flag fly?
Well, DJ, we had a wide bank track in the first week, and then we went to a narrow, shallow track. Let's combine the two. We have a very wide, very shallow track. What does that mean today?
Well, Joe, what we have seen in the past from Knoxville with these dirt street stocks is typically a high side dominant circuit, and it appears I'm thinking that's going to be the same today. So look for a lot of drivers ripping the top side here and trying to carry the momentum as much as possible around the high line of this track up along the cushion. Now, in terms of passing and overtaking, there is going to present a really nice opportunity for these drivers to get some passing done. You can try to dive down a little bit lower on a medium line. We've seen some success with guys running a little bit lower here as well, down even into a low line. But I think most importantly, you're going to see a lot of use of the slide job tonight. That's going to be a really, really good way to get by. But the only caveat with that and running on the low line is one of the eccentricities of Knoxville, and that is the berm that runs along the low side of the track. Drivers have got to be very careful not to get their left front tire up onto that berm, as that will throw the car up into the air and really, really disrupt their run.
Certainly going to be a difficult folly to avoid here today, but as we take a look at the championship, I mentioned it, Hargraves has fought back and actually taken the points lead due to better all-around race evening, I guess you could say. They do earn points outside of the feature race, so that's what has put him ahead, despite a first and a second for each of them. Now, Billy Northcutt is a ways back because he had a very poor showing in the first round, but did well with a podium last week. Chris Davis and Justin Morton are the ones that are tightly behind him, keeping that fight for third honest. What about the race details for today's event, DJ? What do we got for that?
Well, Joe, as we mentioned, we are running the dirt street stocks here in the third of 11 rounds in the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series. Now, the heat race format for tonight is going to be like this. Drivers are going to be able to head out for a solo lap qualifying. They will be the only car out on track, and they'll have 4 laps to set their fastest time. That will then lead into a series of heat races, and in those heat races, the top 3 drivers will advance automatically into the A main event. From there, anyone who does not make those transfer spots, they will be in the B main. From there, the top 24 drivers overall will go on. So we will set the field for 24 as we are looking at a car count that's not going to be that tonight. Looks like everybody's going to make the feature. The feature race is going to be 40 laps. That will be the only time during the course of the night that we see a caution flag get thrown.
What'll be interesting as well is the way that this thing develops as we watch the last 5 minutes of the warm-up, because this series is kind of notorious at this point, DJ, for not resetting the track at any point during any of the races. And I kind of expect from our past experience for that to mean it'll kind of climb up the hill as it goes on.
Most certainly, that slick line across the track, the rubbered in line, is just going to keep moving higher and higher up. And as we watch Brandon Proudfoot now working his way around, we've seen him really have some success being able to run a narrow, low line when that rubbered in middle line gets there. So that may be a way for success for the driver of the 22 here tonight.
Off the corner and around these very short straights, also a track with very long turns that the drivers are dealing with as we now check in with Austin Belke as well, another one of our onboards this evening, and definitely giving us a very good, well, sort of good look at the face. Maybe needs a little bit more lighting there for him to be able to really tell what is going on. But he looks very intent and is certainly trying to get his worth of practice in to make it valuable enough for the qualifying and racing that is coming up pretty soon. I do believe we have another on board. I'm trying to see if we have him out there. Yes, we do. This is a face we've been wanting to see for a while now. J.R. Shepard joins us, and this goes to show that for a driver who has been so incredibly dominant on the pavement side, I know we bring it up a lot, but we could see there his rig is nothing more than just a regular office chair, and he does have the triple screen setup, but we keep talking about it all the time, DJ. It doesn't really matter as much how expensive of a setup you have, like maybe it does in real racing. It's all down to the driver here in the sim world.
Most certainly, and you can get into a debate over if you need to upgrade your pedals or your wheel or anything like that, but the truth of the matter is, Joe, as long as you have a good enough feel for the car, as long as you've got some sort of force feedback in those in that wheel that can let you know how the car's handling, and you've got an ability to know exactly how much pressure you're putting on the brake pedal, you can do just about anything you want to do here in iRacing.
Shepard's still looking for victory recently in the Bootleg's Dirt Street Stock Series. So he sits down at 10th in the warm-up. But again, we can't put too much weight on that. He's certainly trying out that high side. In fact, he's well up into all the gray and marbles. Not interested in trying that low side here early on. And not riding the cushion too much, at least through 3 and 4. That one maybe more so through 1 and 2 as he cuts back down, trying to straight line off of it. Right now, Hargraves is our quickest in the warm-up, with Brandon Proudfoot behind him by about 0.5 tenth of a second. As we're going to be racing under the lights once again. And here's an interesting question. Maybe the Peanut Gallery can chime in on this. I was trying to think. I don't think there's any dirt tracks on iRacing that don't have night lighting, do they?
I don't believe they do, Joe. I think all of them do have night lighting, and that does mimic a lot of what happens in the real world on these dirt tracks, whether you are at a sort of national confluence like Knoxville or someplace that's a little bit more of a hole-in-the-wall place like Kokomo, because a lot of what these dirt tracks make their bread and butter on are what we would call gentleman drivers, guys that have day jobs that come out and race these street stocks at night after they're done on the weekends. So night lighting a real necessity for a lot of dirt tracks to stay alive during the course of the year.
That's a good point. And that's one thing I do love about us getting to cover these street stocks is it does feel like a good down-home race, except week in and week out. We get to take them all over the country to try and ply their trade at some of the best dirt tracks in the nation. Just a minute left to go now. As was mentioned, we're up to 19 cars, so a decent-sized field that we'll have competing today. It should be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll get some interesting racing out of it, because last week we worried that we wouldn't have much passing since it was so tight around Weed Sport, and then suddenly we come to here, and I mean, look at how wide open it is.
Oh, it is massively wide open, and one of the features that we are used to seeing when we come to Knoxville in this series is 3, maybe even 4 wide coming off of restarts, and so it always creates a good amount of excitement. But as you mentioned, as this track continues to rubber in, drivers are going to have to be careful, because if they try to take all 4 tires into the rubbered in section of the track, there is going to be no grip at all for them, and it is going to be an absolute slide fest as they go through the corners.
Alrighty, so we're getting ready to move on over to our qualifying session. And again, a reminder, if you're new to the Bootleg Racing League's Dirt Street Stock Series, they each get 4 laps completely to themselves on the track, and it is their fastest lap that counts. So we'll be looking for who can set a single fastest time around this half-mile circuit. And it appears that Ryan Seneker is going to be the first one to give it a go.
Yeah, Seneker out there in the blue and white 61 machine. Now, do not be surprised if you see a lot of drivers taking a super high line off of 3 and 4 to start their flying laps. That's a way for them to maximize speed and momentum as they cross over the line. They'll be able to cross the line with a higher count of miles per hour, and indeed, that's what Seneker does, and he's going to take to the high line as well through 1 and 2.
So let's see what kind of marker he's going to put on the board down along the back stretch. Chucks it into 3 once again, preferring that high side of the track. Diamonds it off, and as he comes to cross the line, it is going to be a 23-1. Waiting for the others to now follow suit to see if they can match that. He is seriously diming off these corners, coming way down to the shallow end, trying to get as much speed as possible. Wilson goes up to the top spot. Chris Davis going to topple him in the number 7 quite quickly.
Yeah, John Wilson was, I believe, 4th during practice, so he's having a very good run here. He'll be one to keep an eye on. There is Billy Northcutt. Looks like he's having a bit of an issue out there. Check back to Austin Belke. Good to see him back running again. It's been a couple of weeks. He's able to go faster there.
Northcutt still our quickest by a 1/4 of a 1/10 of a second. Right now, this is Justin Morton. And as the 9 crosses the line, that second lap, unfortunately, not going to be quicker, so he stays in P7. Hargraves, I think, is on a flyer now. And the 71, he's coming around 3 and 4. He is taking the low line, though. Interesting. Completely different from what we've been watching from a few other drivers so far. It's going to put a 22.8 on the board, and that is easily the top time by 0.2 of a second.
Well, it's a different line there, Joe, but I'm going to say it's going to work for William Hargraves. An absolutely mega run for the Dirt Panda driver, and there's that berm that I talked about. You can see that left side tire starting to mount over the side of it. I wouldn't be surprised if that costs him a little bit of time on that second lap, and indeed, it costs him about a 1/10 of a second.
Even still, a full 0.2 as Billy Northcutt manages to go quicker than Gary Clinton. Where did this speed come from for the 6? He's up in the top 2 rows, and this is, I want to say, the best qualifying we have yet to see in multiple seasons from the number 6 car.
You're right there, Joe, and we've heard guys like Proudfoot talking multiple times about the level of competition and how they're taking it seriously. Gary Clinton, one of those guys, he has been climbing up the charts. Here comes Brennan Myers, a little bit of a different livery for the 25 driver. Now he's going to cross over the line, unable to improve from that position. Clinton crosses across there as well, unable to improve as well.
Proudfoot finally puts his first time in, but he is a 10th and some change off of Hargraves, who finishes up his qualifying. So he is done. He cannot respond if somebody puts in a better lap from here. Look at him flirting with that berm, but did he hit it too hard as he starts to drift out off the corner down to the line? A 23.0 is going to become a 22.9. It didn't hurt him too badly. He'll retake second from Bobby Hayes.
That's really surprising there, Joe. I would not expect the slider line to be the fastest way to put a time in on the track, although maybe one of the best ways to put a pass through. Now we see Proudfoot running that high line, kind of keep the car a little bit straighter. Now that comes into what he was talking about with us last week, maybe about the new tire model, trying to keep the car as straight as possible, and that may be the best way to get the new responsiveness out of these new tires.
Which is shocking considering Hargraves' quickest lap came on the shallowest line we've perhaps seen in the entire qualifying session. No improvement last time for Proudfoot, and this is his last go as he crosses the line. It's a 22.964. That is just a few hundredths off of his fastest. So he's still second of their qualifying times, but is not able to get that bonus point away from Hargraves. Fascinating developments. I'm glad you brought that up. I'd almost completely forgotten that we are on that new tire model. It doesn't look too drastically different, but we haven't really seen the drivers really racing one another in anger yet.
No, we haven't, and that's where these heat races are going to be really, really interesting to take a look at, Joe. They often determine for a lot of these drivers what the fastest way and the best way to get around is going to be. So outside of determining that running order for the A main, it's also very indicative of what racing is going to look like.
We're setting up for the first heat of the evening. And on the top of it, since he took the pole, it's going to be William Hargraves with Gary Clinton starting second here. This is something I think a lot of his fans will be watching closely to see if he can follow it up, as John Wilson will begin from third.
In fourth will be Justin Morton. He's going to be one to watch to maybe look up through the field here, with Matt Shinosky lining up in fifth place.
Pace truck already leading them out. Again, it is the top three that will advance to the feature this evening automatically, and then the rest will have to determine their starting position based on where they finish in the B main, which will happen after all the heats wrap up. As they all work their way onto the back stretch, we'll get 2 pace laps, and then we are on our way for the first heat of the night. A bit of a unknown territory for our drivers, who are going to give a go in the street stocks with some new tires on that will behave just a little bit differently. Some are anticipating this could exaggerate who the fast and who the slow guys are.
It very well could, Joe, and I think what it's going to do is it may hurt ever so slightly as the run goes along, running that low line. We heard Brandon talking about last week how you really want to try to drive these cars as straight as possible now, based off of the sidewall construction that iRacing has put into these tires. There's not as much give, and so you're going to get a better launch if your car is pointed perfectly straight. So it may mean that that high line is a little bit more effective, but Hargraves and Proudfoot proving that a little bit wrong based off their qualifying runs.
There goes the pace truck. Hargraves waiting for the green flag, and there he goes. Heat number 1 for round 3 is on its way, but immediately Gary Clinton is under attack as the 75 below him, with John Wilson trying to steal that P2 out from his feet, and he's not going to be able to get fully by. Behind that is Justin Morton giving watch as well, and maybe looking for 3 wide early on the first lap. He gets underneath, but he can't keep the momentum up.
He can't exactly keep it up, but that's exactly what I was talking about, that 3 wide ability. Very, very high there for Gary Clinton, almost getting up into the gray. That's going to cost him ever so slightly. He is going to be able to get a good run here on Justin Morton. They're going to be parallel diving into 3 and 4.
Trying to continue that very high line all the way up next to the Armco barrier. He's got to stay in this third place if he wants to automatically advance. He brushes the outside wall along the front stretch, still narrowly holding on to that position as the timing and scoring flashes back and forth. Morton flirting with it, but he gets a poor exit, and he's going to slot back in line behind the 6.
Well, and Justin Morton now running on what I would imagine is his preferred line. We've seen Justin really, really loving to run high at different places over the course of the past couple of seasons. Dives it now down to the low line, trying to get some moves there on Gary Clinton. We ride on board with Matt Chinoski. Oh, as the two almost come together.
Yeah, thankfully he did not pull any sort of slider line at all. He kept it tucked in, and that kept him from running into the side of Clinton. That time he tries a bit of a slider. Clinton has to take avoiding action. That interrupts his momentum. He's lost that third place, and he is in danger of dropping out.
That is what we call getting the elbows out here, Joe. Just trying to scare Gary Clinton off the line, and it worked perfectly for the number 9 of Justin Morton. So he is now into that transfer spot, and Gary Clinton's only going to have one lap across the line to get it done and try to get back into it.
White flag waves for Hargraves, who's already got a second and a half over John Wilson. He's been stomping the field out there in this first heat. And poor Gary Clinton, unfortunately, not look like he's going to fight for the lead, because he actually just hit the wall in a fight for 5th. Up at the front, William Hargraves takes the win in the first heat of the evening, as he's followed home by John Wilson, who nearly got caught by Justin Morton, as Chinoski and Clinton round out the field in 4th and 5th, respectively, being slotted into the consolation race. Okay, let's head off to heat number 2. And since Brandon Proudfoot qualified 2nd on the field, he is going to be put on the pole of heat number 2. Jason Best starts from 2nd, and J.R. Shepard will be P3.
Jason Menda will be lining up P4, and to round out the back of this second heat, it will be Michael Davis in 5th.
So already Pace Truck is going to lead them away. So that was interesting. We had a few drivers falling back quite quickly, and then we saw the likes of excuse me, my mind just blanked on me. Morton, thank you, Justin Morton, try to climb his way forward and very nearly take a second. What do you think the big difference was between drivers climbing forwards and falling backwards?
Well, I think in terms of Gary Clinton falling backwards, he just kind of lost rhythm. It's something that we don't necessarily talk as much about in dirt racing as we maybe do in short track or sometimes certain road courses. But you really have to get into a good rhythm to make sure you get it right and feel the car. And if you get the sort of hip check that Justin Morton threw on Gary Clinton, that can really affect your for lack of a better word, mojo as you're coming through the corner. And I think that's a little bit of what happened. So what I'm going to be watching for is Clinton's performance in the B main. If he's going to be able to recover and get back into it, he could be a real contender once we get to the feature time.
So we ride on board with Shepard now, waiting for that pace truck to let them go. Proudfoot ahead of him, and Proudfoot goes very early. Green flag waves. The 22 gets a nice jump as Jason Best now has to worry about Shepard to his inside. This is how it started with both Clinton and Morton, and it's looking eerily similar with the exit as well, as the 47 gets a great shot.
He certainly does, but he's not far enough alongside of J.R. Shepard to get the move done. Shepard has to check up a little bit there mid-corner. That's going to open him up a little bit to Jason Menda, taking a modified slide job line around the outside, trying to put the pressure on the 98 now as well.
47 coming right back, and here comes the 45 of Jason Menda. He's going to get to the outside of J.R. Shepard, forcing him to stay low. All of them fanning out, looking for a little bit of racing room, and Jason Best is going to make this one difficult for JR as he continues to lead across the line. Remember, doesn't matter how far ahead he is, he just needs that nose to be barely in front when the checkered flag falls.
Indeed, and as they cross the line this time, he'll have 3 laps to think about this. But Joe, this is eerily similar to what we saw Justin Morton running in that last race. Just struggling to make that low line work, and the high line, if you can get it right, just being able to carry the massive momentum. But Shepard doing a little bit of a better job here. He's got a full nose ahead as they come through turn 2, but Best able to pull up alongside, keeping this a very, very close fight.
So holding that high line, and with that shallow run around the corner. That's the worst of them we've seen so far from J.R. Shepherd. Now 2 laps to go. He tries to get back up high now that he's got some clear track up there down underneath him. Jason Menda gives it a look, but nothing working on that one. And it is even more of a walloping on this race than what we saw last time. 2.2 seconds from P1 to P2.
That has got to be a very disconcerting sign for the rest of the drivers here tonight. Brandon Proudfoot really starting to feel his way around the track, but behind him, J.R. Shepherd trying to do anything he can do to get by Jason Best, but Best just resolutely holding on that high line and making it very difficult for the 98.
Intriguingly, Proudfoot still trying to ride that low side and clipping the berm as we go side by side for second, but Proudfoot takes the victory, and behind him, Best barely gets into second, Shepherd third. Menda and Davis are being sent to the consolation from there. So once again, the second place drivers seem to really be getting into the thick of it. Let's see if it's the same here, because Bobby Hayes will be starting on the pole, and if the last one or last two are anything to go by, it'll be Chris Davis and Austin Belke in P2 and P3 that'll give us the most action.
Jason Dill will be hoping to disrupt that action from a P4 start with Joe Segala lining up behind him in P5.
All right, already taken off. Nobody interested in sitting around this time. Everybody immediately getting onto the track so that they can get these races going. As it's going to be the number 13 who leads the way, but I would not count out Chris Davis this evening, as the 7 at times can manage very, very strong races, though not every time. Seems to be either on his game or a bit anonymous.
Exactly, and we're going to have to see how that plays out. But if he's able to catch the start a little bit better than we've seen in these other races, he may have a bit of an advantage starting off on the high side. We've seen that favoring a lot of guys here tonight.
Here's Davis's perspective as we watch him get ready, prep to go. And they're going to come around 3 and 4. You can see just how wide the slicked up line is starting to get on the corner entry, and then it thins out as it goes. Let's see if it goes all the way to the wall before we get to that feature race. Green flag is out. The 13 does not get as good of a jump as we've seen some of the other leaders do. Chris Davis holds with him. He also doesn't have the 24 of Belke nearly as close underneath like we've seen some of those other fights. And in fact, fantastic run from the 7. Let's see if he tries to chase down Hayes.
He's certainly trying to. You can see him working a little bit of a higher line there, just trying to maximize as much momentum as he can along that high side there. They cross over the start-finish line. The gap is really only about 0.2 of a second, so Davis doing a great job to keep the pressure on Bobby Hayes.
And how about this? Jason Dill managing to overtake Belke, but only temporarily, as he's going to get underneath him, tries to fight back, enters incredibly shallow, goes for that slider line. Dill just ducks underneath him and tries to take the fight onto the front stretch.
This is a good swap back and forth here for P3. Remember, this is the final transfer spot, so a lot on the line for these two drivers.
Boy, into the first corner that time, Davis was nearly pushing Bobby Hayes into there. And there he is. Once again, you can see he's actually getting a little nudge to the 13 and then trying to duck underneath him. A battle for the lead for the first time that we've seen tonight in the third heat. He's got a nose ahead. He's going to take it way down low, climbs on top of the berm. Is that going to be too much as Bobby Hayes tries to straighten off the exit? No, still it works out for Chris Davis, who is our new leader.
Absolutely amazing moves there for Chris Davis, but Bobby Hayes not having enough, almost trying a slide job line to get up into him there.
He had inches to spare, or else they would have been banging doors through that corner. As now Chris Davis tries to stay low, pinching down Bobby Hayes, and it works. The 13 falls back. We are on board with Belke, watching once again.
And there you can see Belke's eyes just following what's happening ahead of him and trying to keep an eye on the track as well. They're going to take the white flag here as they cross the start-finish line. Davis, Hayes, and Belke in the transfer spots.
Oh, Hayes is not going to take this one sitting down. In fact, they are going to come together as the 13 and the 7 make contact. Are they going to hit again? Oh, almost. I think they managed to stay out of each other, but it is going to be a drag race to the line. Who is going to get this one? Momentum coming back to the 7. It is close, and it looks like Hayes got it by 17 thousandths of a second over Davis. What a run. That wound up with Belke being the last to advance. Dill was 4th, and Segala it was 5th. All right, on to our last heat of the night and our only heat with 4 drivers. Billy Northcutt starts this one on the pole with Brennan Myers to his outside.
Behind them, it's going to be Ryan Seneker in 3rd and Keith Grant in 4th.
Okay. Well, that was an absolute stunner, completely opposite of what we saw in the first 2 heats with the drivers in the lead just running away from things. Will we get something more akin to that again between the 25 and the double aughts? Northcutt, who briefly was in 2nd, got shuffled down after a bit in that qualifying session. I'm sure he's going to want to make up for that by dominating today. We'll see how he handles it in the end. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's going to be interesting to watch that, Joe. What we've really seen in this last heat race was the middle line starting to come in a little bit more. And so that's what I'm going to be watching out of these drivers to see if they start to notice that and exploit it as much as they can.
Yeah, that's a fair point. We saw both Davis and Belke pretty consistently sticking around there, not going much higher. So wonder who has been paying attention amongst this group and tries to do the same as our 2 competitors vying for the lead last heat. On the 2nd pace lap now, only 1 car is going to be sent into the B main, which will happen immediately after this final heat. So they're not going to get much time to rest, whoever it is. Everybody else will be able to sit back and watch and enjoy the action as the best of the rest try to vie for their starting positions in the feature. The pace truck is in and the green flag is out. Single file, every single one of them almost immediately. And once again, Northcutt was watching, I think, what we saw some of the others doing as he tries to ride that berm on the entry, and it has worked out well enough. He's ahead of Myers.
Yeah, he got a very, very good start off the line, able to get about a 2-car length gap on Brennan Myers, but Myers running a little bit of a slider line there, trying to carry momentum through the corner, going to try to close it down on the end of this first lap, but not quite enough there. Myers doing the same thing, taking a big chunk of that berm.
Oh, going way too far to the outside. Brennan Myers finds himself nearly into the outside wall. It was a pair of 2 in each of them, but now it is turned into 1 and 3 as we ride on board with Seneker looking ahead at the 25. It's 9/10 of a second up to that top spot currently.
It is Northcutt just starting to absolutely run away with it. And after that error there from Brennan Myers, he's now starting to settle in and pulling a little bit of a gap to Ryan Seneker. So this turning out to be one of the more calm heats that we've seen tonight.
Yeah, I think unless we get a mistake from one of the drivers, it's looking unlikely we'll see much in the way of position changes as they fan out around the track. We're already halfway through the event. Northcutt leads Myers, leads Seneker, with Grant in the tail end Charlie position as Billy crosses the line. We'll now take it down to 2 to go. Brennan Myers continuing to fall back. It was at 0.8 of a second just a couple laps ago, already up to 1.2.
And you can see there, Brennan just trying to find multiple lines here, figuring out what's going to work best for the 25. At this point, I think he knows that a heat race win is not on the cards, and he's just doing as much reconnaissance as he can on the track.
So back around once again onto the backstretch for the final time. Billy Northcutt is going to be a lot more like our first 2 heats and nothing like the third. As he rounds 3 and 4, Billy Northcutt wins this final heat race of the evening for round 3 of the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series. Myers 2nd, Seneker 3rd, and Grant now heads off to the consolation race which we begin now. Your starting order of this 7-car field is going to be Matt Shanoski on the pole. Jason Menda starts in second, with Jason Dill in third, and Keith Grant starting from fourth.
Gary Clinton's going to be lining up in fifth, followed by Michael Davis and Joe Segala back in seventh.
Man, shows you how important it was for Clinton not just to stay within those top three in his heat, but because he fell to last in that heat, he is starting from near the back of this field in the consolation. So he has unfortunately thrown away what was a phenomenal qualifying, and has got a lot of work to do. Hopefully the pace that we saw in that qualifying shows itself again here in this consolation race.
My thoughts exactly, Joe. I'm going to have my eyes on that green and red number 6 as he goes his way through the field. I also think Jason Menda may be one to watch here. We saw a very, very good battle with him and Justin Morton and Jason Best in that second heat race. So there's some very clear speed there out of the number 45.
All right, Shanoski to the inside. Gets one more pace lap around to prepare himself. And remember, these drivers who were part of those earlier sessions, those earlier heats, are coming in blind. They did not have a warm-up to feel out the track, as it's had a number of laps put on it by quite a few cars at this point. As the pace truck takes it around 3 and 4. Can Shanoski claim a victory here and redeem himself from missing out in the first heat? There goes the pace truck. 94 waits. He checks them up. Now he gets going, and it's going to bite him as he does not get a good jump to his outside. Jason Menda is almost side by side. Tries to launch off the corner. He'll have the momentum as they come off of turn 2, drifting up, but there's a car there, and indeed, Menda is easily up to the top spot now.
And Joe, that just shows the importance of getting that good jump from the inside lane. If you don't, the momentum can come back to bite you. You may have seen there in the background, Jason Dill climbing over the berm. He's lost out a whole bunch of positions, but that has moved Gary Clinton up into fourth now, and he's really starting to challenge there, as it looks like that's one
Clinton.
of the guys having a problem. Oh, Clinton having a problem.
Yeah, he slid, and now he is at the very back of the field. So Menda continues to lead ahead of Shanoski, with Grant in third, but the battle for fourth is tight. Jason Dill is on the inside of Segala.
And Dill trying to recover from that early excursion over the berm, putting a little bit of pressure there on Keith Grant on the exit of corner 2. They're going to slot back into line, about a car and a half length between them.
Dill has his sights set on a podium tonight, as not only is he disposed of Segala, but Grant is almost within his reach, chucks it down into 1 and 2. That low line continuing to work well until about there, as the 5 starts to drop off, and he's going to have to get back in line behind the 27. No, he's going to continue to fight down to the inside, see if he can get enough grip running along that slicked up portion of the track. No, it's not meant to be for now.
And we've seen this a couple of times during the course of these heat races, Joe. Guys trying to fight down on the low side, it not really working, and having to resort to running high for a lap or two, able to draw right alongside that left rear quarter panel, but all of that battling on the inside's allowing him to come under attack from Joe Segala now.
Very close battle for the final step on the podium. Keep our eyes on this for now. Ooh, and almost a little bit of a touch there from the 81 onto the back of the 27. Thankfully, they got away with it. But I just want to give an update to our viewers that Shanoski's been holding on the back of Menda, and we're only just getting through halfway. So let's take a look and see if he's going to start attacking soon.
He's certainly thinking about it. We're going to jump on board here with Matt Shanoski. Great run off the corner. Have to check up ever so slightly. A little bit of a wiggle there from Menda. I have to say, Joe, I think Shanoski's just trying to sit back here and put a little bit of the pressure to the leader and waiting until the right moment to attack.
Ooh, wow, great exit off the corner as well. Down into 1 and 2 yet again. Riding a pretty similar line. Looks to cut back underneath. the 80 or the 94 is going to have better momentum and actually gets the overlap this time. The 45 cannot slam the door shut. He rides up high. We're going to get 2 to go this time by, and Shinoski nearly had it, but he doesn't have the speed off of 4.
He doesn't. You saw a little bit of a wiggle as he was running clear through the gray there in the middle of the track. Lost a lot of time there. That left front tire climbing over the berm ever so slightly. Lead's going to shift back to Menda. Now Shinoski trying to run a little bit of a higher line there through 3 and 4 and carry momentum.
Once again, down the front stretch rather, as Menda leads Shinoski, but just barely. He likes that undercut. And the 94 is going to try it again, but he can't quite get the space that he needs. He's not nearly as up alongside the 45 this time by. This is the final lap of our consolation race, and who is going to take it away? It's going to be Menda winning here in the B main. Shinoski in second, Dill taking a well-earned third with Keith Grand in fourth, Segala fifth. 6 goes to Davis, and poor Gary Clinton winds up at the very tail of the field, which means he will line up at the end of the group in the feature, which will come up soon. But first, we go through our warm-up rounds. Whoa, what a consolation. What a heat number 3. At least we got some good action on the lead-up, but what's your main takeaway so far here, DJ?
Well, it looks like that high line is still king. We've seen a lot of guys very much struggling to try to get a move done. You've got to nail about 4 corners in a row on the low line to get it to work. So high line's going to be king, but I think a lot of aggressive sliders may be the way to try to get some action to happen. If we remember in that third heat race, that very aggressive slider that almost came to contact, that may be a way to do it. A little bit of mental tactics, as it were.
Well, the drivers quickly out to try and get their feet on the ground and feel what the track is like. Not looking like the entirety of it is slicked up yet, although the entries are getting pretty close to being completely to the outside. Exits are just about anybody's game on the other hand. As we watch them go by, of course, the Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum and the Clausen Suites. Of course, I know you being hailing out of Indiana, Clausen obviously known there for the year that he sadly lost his life to racing and actually got to compete in the Indy 500 as well.
He did. He is certainly one of the drivers that was taken from us far, far too early. Brian was an absolutely spectacular dirt racer and showed really amazing promise being able to come over and run the Indianapolis 500 in the way that he did, and his legacy has lived on with the Driven to Save Lives initiative that continues to make its mark on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and racing as a whole. Brian, just one of those guys that it's hard to watch a dirt race sometimes and not think about it.
Well, the thing that I love too is that was such a great nod to Indy's roots, if you will. For the longest time, that was the ladder, coming up through dirt ovals, running sprint cars before wings started to be attached to them, coming up through that sort of environment and eventually working your way to pavement open wheels and trying your hand at Indianapolis. Now, obviously, quite different, the way that most find themselves getting there. But for many years, this style of racing didn't take you to NASCAR, DJ. It took you out to Indiana.
Most certainly, and as the more historical-minded viewers will know, that it was really Jeff Gordon that precipitated that change and his desire to go to NASCAR when no seats were available to him in IndyCar. But I do have to say that it has been great to see IMS and IndyCar as a whole starting to sort of re-embrace dirt, especially with the construction of the dirt track in the middle of Turn 3 and the Brian Clausen Memorial race that goes on there, and seeing guys like Connor Daly jumping over to run dirt, and more IndyCar guys starting to kind of watch out with an excited eye about, maybe be something I want to do here in the future.
You know, I'm calling it now. I want to see Grosjean get in a dirt car and give that a go. I know his former teammate over at Haas definitely gave it a go at least a few times. I saw some footage of him with Tony Stewart trying out a dirt sprint car, but I'd love to see another F1 Pro try a hand at good old dirt racing here in the States.
I got to agree with you, Joe. I want to see all of them do it. I would love to see Grosjean do it. I'd also love to see, frankly, some of the Penske boys get their perfectly pressed pants a little dirty and run some dirt. That'd be some fun too.
Yeah, I think that would be fun to watch. Frankly, if we're talking about some big name European drivers giving it a go, let's get Hamilton over here at some point. Let's have him try and convince Mercedes to let him have a chance at it, as we get the last 17 seconds ticking down here. And Brandon Proudfoot's going to lead our warm-up session. Not too many surprises there. Hargraves down in 6th. Certainly not a dire situation for the 71 and our winner from last week, but let's see how he does with Proudfoot starting next to him now and having to fend off the champion from last season on the track, as we are getting ready to go racing for 40 laps here in round 3 of the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series. The cars now start to grid up, and that starting order is going to be thus. It is William Hargraves who starts it on the pole. Brandon Proudfoot is P2, with Bobby Hayes in 3rd. Then you've got Billy Northcutt starting 4th, and John Wilson in P5. Jason Best starts in 6th, with Chris Davis in 7th. Brendan Myers, P8 for him. Justin Morton in 9th, and J.R. Shepard starts 10th.
Austin Belkey's going to be lining up in 11th, followed by Ryan Seneker. Jason Menda and Matt Shinoski will be lining up behind them, with Jason Dill and Keith Grant lining up 15th and 16th. Joe Segala takes the 17th spot, while Michael Davis will be 18th, and bringing up the back of the field will be Gary Clinton.
Here we go. Expect a very drastically different style of racing, with many more cars out there, and a track that is going to change in a hurry, with 19 of them pounding onto the dirt. We get the obligatory fireworks, sending them on their way as the drivers get ready to go. Hopefully with that new smoke and dust model, the smoke from those will clear up rather quickly.
I would hope so, Joe. You know, we've got about 5-6 miles an hour of wind here at the virtual Knoxville Speedway, so hopefully that will help to clear it up. There you can see track temperature at a cool 73 degrees, but that 93% humidity really just showing what a Midwest summer is like. That is going to actually be helpful. That'll help retain a little bit of moisture in the track, so that may help it stay a little bit racier for a little bit longer.
Yeah, thank goodness for that, as, like I said, it's certainly going to get torn up, especially on such a flat surface around here. A driver is going to be putting so much into the ground as they slide across. Here comes the pace truck, with Hargraves taking control of the field. And he goes. Green flag is out. He gets a good jump over the 22. Can he cover off Bobby Hayes underneath him? He's going to ride all the way up to the outside, though, and then chops back down. The 13 does not drift up into him. Second place back to Proudfoot as they go single file for the top 3.
That was an absolutely mega run for Brandon Proudfoot along the outside, really being able to hold off the momentum of Bobby Hayes. Behind him, though, Joe, we've got 4 wide. Chris Davis, I see Best, Northcutt in there.
Woo, and Morton involved as well. As we get a little bit of a tip, that's Wilson getting turned around. Our first caution of the night. Morton narrowly avoids it. J.R. Shepard takes a big hit. Bobby Hayes gets turned. No, that's Seneker turned around. Clinton, unfortunately, involved. It was an absolute chain reaction. It all started with Wilson.
Jump back to check out the replay here, Joe. Yeah, you said it best. It was just an absolute chain. So there you go, Wilson. That's going to be Bobby Hayes cutting down ever so slightly. You see Morton having to check up. That's going to send J.R. Shepard up into the wall. There you see Seneker getting some of it. Just absolutely nowhere for those drivers in the back to go.
We're going to watch from onboard Wilson, and I believe, oh, Jason Dill with hard damage. Menda also had a very lucky escape, did a great job shooting the gap in the 45. Let's take a look at that one real quick before we come back. Yeah, just found his way through.
Give that man some tablets and call him Moses. He is very lucky to part the seas like that.
Okay, so what does this do for our order? Hargraves still leads, Proudfoot in second, Hayes in third, but now Northcutt gets promoted into P4 and Best to fifth, Morton on the outside of that third row. And we are going to get going next time by, as they are already lined up 2 by 2. Apparently the fighting is going to be fierce today, DJ, if that's anything to go by.
It most certainly is, and it's really going to be all dictated by what kind of jump Hargraves is able to get out front. We saw how excellent of a one he had last time, and that really put the rest of the field to be backed up, and that's what precipitated all of that multiple wide action.
I think we're having a little bit of problems with Michael Davis, as I think he's blinking. Hopefully he gets that sorted out pretty soon. As we now come to the line, and Hargraves once again accelerates away. Not as big of a jump as we saw last time, and in fact, here comes Bobby Hayes trying once again on the inside of our current champion, Brandon Proudfoot. Once again, he gets denied, and now it's a fight for third, as here comes Northcutt right in the high line.
Yeah, you got a really good run there out of turn 2, and now he's going to pull along Justin Morton there on the outside, challenging Bobby Hayes as they cross over the start-finish line. We are on board right now with Justin Morton. We've seen him run this high line to perfection earlier. Almost
looked like he brushed the outside wall on the entry there for a moment. But a great exit from the double aught. Pulls ahead a little bit. As up in front of him, I'm keeping an eye on Proudfoot. Actually, Proudfoot's got a monster launch. You can see him there at the bottom of the screen. He's going for the lead, fighting with Hargraves yet again. Got a really good launch there out of the corner. Hargraves knows he's coming, tries to throw a little bit of a defensive slide job there, but Proudfoot is wise to it. Dives down to the inside, and the race for P1 is on. Once again, takes it shallow, but it looks like Hargraves knows that move too. He comes back underneath him, looking for the shot. He's not going to be fully ahead as they slide into 1 and 2. Hargraves once again trying that slide job, pulling down underneath, and he's going to try and block him off at the bottom. Leaves just enough of a gap open. There goes Proudfoot. And he's going to try it again. There he's going to go, and they're just swapping slide jobs out front, and the battle behind is just as fierce. That is Bobby Hayes, Billy Northcutt, and Justin Morton, with Jason Best also starting to park his nose in there. This has been a wild race, and I can tell you ahead of them, Proudfoot's doing it again, getting inside of the 71, just back and forth. That time, though, he didn't get far along the side of William Hargraves. Is this going to change the complexion of things? Hargraves nearly nose to nose as they went across the timing line that time by. He keeps trying to come down and keep the 22 from getting a shot, but he doesn't close the door enough, and it just repeats itself again. Yeah, Joe, you know, I thought that it was going to be the slide job as the way to pass, but it looks like for these two drivers, slide job is the way to defend the position almost at this point. They continue to swap back and forth here, nobody giving an inch. That time, though, Hargraves was ahead slightly. This is going to be close if they do this all the way to the finish, as they've certainly got this one down. The question is, who can manage it better? Maybe he's going to try and cover off. Yes, he is. This time it looks like Proudfoot's going to try to pull the same move. Doesn't quite work out as Hargraves finds a little space. It was 2 1,000ths at the line that time. Absolutely amazing battle. This is exactly what you want to see from dirt track racing. And there it goes again. The crossover working for Brandon Proudfoot through the line. He's going to start to ride up, I would think. No, he's going to hold that line down on the inside. So a change in strategy. Now moves to cover up contact as they cross the line. Gives a little shove to the 22. It's a clash of the Titans, but this time we get something a little bit different. Proudfoot riding high all the way through, and he can claim that he is now the leader, but it took him a good 10 laps.
Absolutely spectacular battling there. You see Hargraves trying to go to a little bit of an inside line off of the corner, diamonding it off ever so slightly more. Now just sticking right in the tire tracks of the 22.
Behind them, we've got a 3-wide battle between Best, Davis, and I believe that is Myers in the 25. They managed to get out the corner, but barely, as another bit of banging doors between the 7 and the 25, down into 3 and 4. Looks like the one who came out best of that is Jason.
It is. You saw a little bit of contact on the wall there. This is Davis on your screen right here. So Best ahead of him. He's got his eyes towards it. And Joe, I love this. You can see him doing exactly what I do when I race, which is leaning to the side as if the car's pulling you along. That's how real this feels from inside the sim.
Still fighting hard for that 7th position, but Myers has the inside, doesn't have the momentum. He's going to come across the line ahead, Will Davis. Behind them, they've got to watch out. The 24 of Belkey is staying close, and that could erupt in any moment.
It could indeed. They're going to keep going side by side here.
We got to go back to the lead. Sorry, we had an attempt from Hargraves. Went to the inside of Brandon Proudfoot down in 3 and 4. Now he gets up behind him yet again. Almost banged the wall. I think he did, in fact, as you can see him sawing away, trying to find an opening. He has got less than a foot between himself and the champion, and we got a caution. Looks like Keith Grant has caused this one.
Yeah, it looks like he's been turned around coming into turn 2 here. So we're going to jump back to a replay and see what happened for the driver, the 27. Hard up into the wall. He's running a very, very high line there coming out of 3. So here he comes across the line, and this is where the incident's going to take place. Looks like he just carries a little bit too much speed. Ooh, that's contact there with the 81 of Joe Segala, and that's what sends him around.
Not as often you see the driver behind come out worse of the two, but for Keith Grant, that's exactly what happened this time. We're going to restart past the halfway point. My goodness, it felt like we had an entire race in there alone, TJ. That back and forth between Proudfoot and Hargraves was something to behold.
It was an absolute clash of the Titans. So now, with this race reset at the halfway point, what is going to be interesting, this is the first time we've seen Proudfoot being able to dictate the pace of this race to start out. So what is he going to choose to do here, and how is Hargraves going to respond?
The way they were able to just switch back and forth on each other so easily, I get the feeling that this really will come down to a run to the line and who can manage to get there first, which might be significant because that start-finish line starts a decent ways, or finishes a decent ways down the front stretch.
It certainly does, and common logic would make you think that that's going to favor the driver who's able to hold the outside line and carry a little bit more momentum through. So we'll have to see if that's what plays through. Now, as we line up here, Brandon Proudfoot opting for the inside line. Leader does have lane choice, so we're ready to get going under green again.
Will we get more of the same, or can one of them finally build a gap over the other? They certainly seem pretty evenly matched here today. As the truck is in, and it's going to be Proudfoot on the loud pedal. Green flag is out as they come down into turn 1. Don't count out Northcutt in that double lot. He's trying to see if he can bring himself to the fight between the 71 and the 22. Can't quite stay fully alongside, drops back. That's also Justin Morton, who hits the wall pretty decently there, coming into 3, and the 9 loses momentum, but he gets it back off the exit.
Yeah, and you saw Jason Dill making heavy impact as well, but there goes that slider from Hargraves. He throws it right there coming through 1 and 2. Tries to cut off the momentum of Proudfoot, but Proudfoot has absolutely none of it as we now go 2 by 2 with Proudfoot and Hargraves and Northcutt and Morton side by side.
Now it's, and we got a caution. Jason Best taking quite a tumble on his lid. This involved Bobby Hayes as well. Yeah, they just get pinched together, and Best finds himself with the sky on the wrong side.
Yeah, so there you can see it, really nowhere for Hayes to go. Best, they just make contact, and that's one of those situations that if you get pinched like that and contact is made, there's really no recourse. You're just kind of stuck into making contact all the way down that back straight.
After so much great green flag racing, we've now found ourselves with a spate of cautions. Is Best going to try and continue to drive that thing? Because even Bobby Hayes decided he had too much damage. He's coming in for a spare car, which they do have one if they need. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if he'll be able to get out in time to stay on the lead lap. Nope, he will. Yeah, Hayes will be able to stay in this race, so that's good to see.
Well, Joe, in terms of Jason Best, Jason Dill, also, we saw him have that big impact earlier and really ding up the front end of that car. He has remained out on track and has not taken the spare car, and he's been able to work himself up to 11th.
Well, the General Sherman continues to prove itself just unstoppable sometimes in this series, as these things just take a licking and keep on ticking. We're going to restart on lap 27 now. Lap's going to start going away, and the likes of Proudfoot and Hargraves are going to feel all the more urgency to be the one ahead at every moment.
Indeed, it's going to be very tight. Again, Proudfoot down on the inside line, and we're ready to get racing again.
The pace truck peels away. Can he get a good start this time? Looking good for the 22. And sending it into the first corner. This time, Proudfoot going down low, cutting back under. Can Hargraves manage to take the lead away? He's got momentum, and he's going to have it interrupted. Has to duck underneath. Sends it down very shallow into 3 and 4. Behind them, continuing 2 by 2 from many rows back as they plunge off of turn 4. Advantage goes to Proudfoot.
It does for the moment, and interestingly, Hargraves chooses to stick down on the low line with him. Justin Morton, the only one running high, and there you can see that worked to his advantage. He's up to 3rd.
He's still fighting with Northcutt and the 0. And they come, he's very fast, almost getting into the back of the 22. And off the line this time, advantage goes to Hargraves instead. Down through 1 and 2, yet again. Both of them splitting it high to low like it's bowling as they come off of the corner. Looks like Brandon Proudfoot found the momentum. Who is it going to be this time as they come across to start lap 30?
Justin Morton taking a big clobber up the wall there. That's going to slow him down ever so slightly, but as they cross the line, it's going to be Proudfoot by a nose to hold it out. We've got a straight down fight here. Looks...
Caution. So Sagala gets turned around. Looks like he's going to make some contact with Shinosky here in the 94. So hard to tell, especially if you don't have VR, where those other cars are sometimes, and that sent him around. Another quick yellow. This time, Hargraves was ahead. The last couple, it's been Proudfoot who is the one that has the advantage when the yellow laundry gets thrown out. So, what can he do that will change the complexion of things? Can he manage to keep Proudfoot back for about 8 or 9 laps?
Well, and we've seen him favor that low line over the last couple laps of this race, so now that he'll be able to start on the inside, that may work out to his advantage ever so slightly. The other thing that I'm watching for, Joe, is that battle right behind them with Northcutt and Morton. That is just as intense, and I've got to be very wary. If I am Hargraves or Proudfoot, Morton's got some mega speed on that high line, and if they let him take it, there is a chance that that number 9 could prove a real sleeper here.
Yeah, that Total Downforce racing car has been threatening to get involved in the battle for the win, but never can quite get himself side by side with either of them, especially with him dealing with Northcutt down below. They are eager and antsy to go as we're going to go around one more time. They're already lined up 2 by 2. This is on board Belke that we were getting another glance of him as we once again look from the gearbox of Davis as well.
And Joe, interestingly, William Hargraves opting for the high line here.
Well, we've seen the speed on the high side be pretty good, that it's been difficult to try and find grip along the bottom, so that might explain it. We took one more glance at J.R. Shepard, who's going to be restarting this one from 8th actually, I believe. And there's the green flag. They are off and away. Proudfoot tried his best to stay with it. He does a pretty decent job. He's going to send the slider in underneath him, cutting back. There goes the 71, easily back in front of the bright yellow number 22. Up high, following. That is Justin Morton as he continues to hound this group. And Northcutt now getting alongside the 22 of Proudfoot. They cross the line, now 6 to go.
And it's getting very, very close here. Now you see Hargraves trying to slide up to cover off Brandon Proudfoot, but doesn't get it far enough. That's going to give a mega run to Brandon Proudfoot. He's almost perfectly clear of Hargraves by the time they dive into 3 and 4. Hargraves takes a little bit of that inside berm that can slow him down ever so slightly, but let's see what he can do. They power over the line, and it's going to be advantage Proudfoot.
Down to 5 to go. Another lap if they get a caution from there on out. And there's the caution right there. It's Jason Dill. Will we see this restart? This is going to be close.
It is indeed. They are going to have to really, really keep it close here and hope that they only get a couple of laps of caution. And if they do, it will be a one-lap shootout to the finish.
My goodness, Dill takes a big thwack with the wall after he gets hit by, I think, Best. And then, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of drivers behind him that just can't avoid the checkup.
Yeah, it looks like Clinton Seneca involved in that. I think Joe Segala in the back there. Jason Dill diving down into the pits to take that spare car at this point.
Oof, if we get going, I believe it'll be only a one-lap shootout. Dill, who is looking for the spare car. Now he's got it, but he's going to be a lap down before he can join our drivers still on the track. So he should have all 19 able to take part in the shootout if it comes to that. And boy, this is going to be a critical one for Brandon Proudfoot. If you're in that 22's seat right now, where do you place it, inside or outside?
You know, Joe, based off of what I've seen, while the outside line may be the preferred way to get across the line, the inside line on the start gives you a little bit better grip, and we've been able to see a little bit better jump from that. So I've got to think you stick with what's been working and favor that low line to start it off.
If we don't go double file this next lap, then it is over. Let's see if the lights go out. The lights go out. All right, we got a one-lap shootout here for round 3. And we cannot get a caution from here. This is it. We are going to finish under green. And it looks like this might come down between Proudfoot and Hargraves. If they get together, anticipate a lot of scrambling from behind for drivers trying to see if they can snatch a surprise win. The pace truck leads them at a frustratingly slow 40 miles an hour. Around turns 3 and 4. Proudfoot elects to take the inside. And he goes very early. Green flag is out. And he is on it as we watch on board with Proudfoot down low, maybe looking for the slider. There goes the 71, almost gets into him, but the momentum very much in favor of the 22. And here comes Northcutt trying to fight for second now. Well out and ahead, the biggest lead we may be seeing of all night for Proudfoot in this feature race, and nowhere to be seen because it's anybody that can challenge him. Proudfoot takes his second win of the season. A close fight for second goes to Hargraves. Just a 100th of a second over Northcutt in third. Morton takes fourth, and Myers rounds out the top 5. Wow. What
wow
a
is
finish.
The only word. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, goodness, as the fireworks now fly and light up the air. Proudfoot celebrates. You can tell he's excited for this one as he sends that car sliding around. Hargraves gave it his best, but when it counted, he just wasn't there to threaten. While the 22 burns it down, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so don't go away. Welcome back to Knoxville Raceway. In round 3 of the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stock Series, Brandon Proudfoot takes his second win of the season over William Hargraves. Not only have they been swapping wins back and forth, that lead of the race swapped back and forth between them who knows how many times. Northcutt came home third, just barely behind Hargraves in the end, as Justin Morton finished P4 and Brennan Myers was 5th. Chris Davis took 6th position as Jason Menda was 7th, up from 13th. J.R. Shepard took P8 and Austin Belkey was 9th, as John Wilson unfortunately went backwards with an early incident and finished 10th.
Matt Shanoski was in 11th, followed by Bobby Hayes in 12th. Ryan Seneker came home 13th, followed by Joe Segala and Michael Davis in 15th. Keith Grant in 16th with Jason Best in 17th. Gary Clinton couldn't recover some of that early speed that we saw to come home 18th, and Jason Dill succumbing to that damage to come home 19th.
That brings us to our winner this evening, Brandon Proudfoot, who had to work hard for this one. But that 22 did prevail and wound up in victory lane. Brandon, my goodness, I think we lost count of how many times you and Hargraves traded the lead in this race. That was incredible to watch.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you myself. And that's, if this race tonight isn't proof of how this tire model has really improved these cars, I don't know what will, because I don't know when's the last time I've thrown that many sliders in general, let alone in a street stock.
Yeah, talk about that, because, you know, we did touch on it briefly, but there was so much action, really didn't get to analyze it too much ourselves in the race. Now that you've had a full feature under your belt, what's your analysis?
I practiced these tracks earlier in the week. I tried it on a few different tracks, and it's really opened up the lines of possibilities for these street stocks here. The new tire model really allows the car to stay a lot straighter, and you've seen there in qualifying, a lot of, even for the guys that usually are in the back of your week, there are a few that were even up there with Billy, and I think I seen Bobby Hayes. He was there, got a heat win over, and it's brought the field a lot closer, and there's not a lot of people losing control too much, and it's like I said, it's opened up lines that usually weren't possible. That's given us this two-line racing like we've seen tonight.
Talk about that last restart as well. Were you sweating it all, knowing that it was down to what line you chose and how well you executed?
Oh, for sure. I knew it was going to come down to a restart, or at the very least a caution for me or William. Whether or not who would have gotten the win, honestly, I couldn't tell you. It would have been on what lap, if anything, would have end up on. Obviously would have wished we raced it out there at the end, but yeah, definitely not an easy night, and I'm glad a lot of these guys are taking the model in stride.
Well, give you a chance to go get a shower and a nice cool drink. Congratulations. Who make this one happen?
Yes, sir. I'm going to go get a drink. All right. Fistful of bourbon, baby. Winners get whiskey. General Tire, Polaris RZR, Vision Wheel, Rigid Industries, Dirtfish, JSP, XTV Axles, Gibson Performance Exhaust, Acronis, St. Racing Fabrications, 07 Designs, Chris Leone Motorsport Job, Law and all the guys that make the thing possible. You guys for doing the broadcast here. Family roots me on, and William, great race, buddy. Holy hell, you had me on edge.
Obviously enjoying that one tremendously. That was Brandon Proudfoot, our victor here today, as DJ's caught up with Billy Hargraves, who was on the other end of that fight.
I have indeed. And William, I've got to say, you know, we just heard Brandon talking about how much fun and how much you had him on edge. I have got to imagine you're sweating right now after a race like that. William, you have a copy?
So we try and see if William can get his mic sorted out. We're going to instead take a quick talk with Billy Northcutt instead. Billy, you were the one that were trying to challenge William Hargrave down to the line there at the very end, but it took you a while to get involved. You were kind of flirting with those top positions for almost the whole race, it seemed. What was keeping you from managing to get side by side with them?
Yeah, man, I think it was just maybe a little bit of fear. The last time we raced here, I led a lot of laps, and had a really close race with Brandon, and I ended up hitting the wall and landing on my lid and getting a DNF. And I really didn't want to start the season with a setback like that in the points this time. So I was kind of just playing it safe and just biding my time, hanging out in third, watching a great race in front of me. And then Justin got up behind me, and I was like, well, I guess I got to move. And he passed me a few times, and the cautions came out just in the middle of the turns that kept putting me back ahead of him. So shout out to Justin Morton for because he was better than me in a lot of the parts of that race. But I had a lot of fun, and it was fun racing with my teammate there to the line. I still think I got him. I still think I finished ahead of him in iRacing. I have to protest him on that.
Talking about the different lines in the corners, obviously, I was a bit surprised that the very low line all the way down to the berm was so successful, because even Brandon Proudfoot used that for one of his qualifying laps, actually clipping that inside berm. What do you think is helping it down there manage to be fast enough and so comparably fast to the high line?
I mean, it's one of those things where with this new tire model, I mean, it grips really well as long as you're keeping it straight. So, I mean, the line, when you run that berm, I was starting to figure out towards the end, my typical line of staying real sideways going around and just keeping the tire on the berm was not working quite as fast as if I would just slow it down a little more going in and try to keep the car as straight as possible going around, almost like a sprint car, and it was like, I don't know if it's the tire itself or just the way the track was filling out today. In the heat race, I was just testing a few things, and I was pounding the berm and 1 and 2 and using it to slingshot up the track on a slider line, just testing some things out. And it actually kind of felt fast for some reason. So I don't know. There's some things I'm going to have to try to figure out with these new tires.
Yeah, I'm sure there's still plenty of research to be done by everybody involved. Who helped give you this this podium here today?
This podium here today wouldn't be possible without Lowell and the job he does with this league. He is a top-notch league owner, and I respect everything about this place. I respect all the drivers in there, all my Dirt Panda teammates. We've been working a lot on trying to figure out the best lines and stuff with these new tires, and thank my wife and my dad for watching, and my mother-in-law and all my friends that care about my iRacing. And not everybody has people that care, so I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, and appreciate you guys for broadcasting.
Oh, that's fantastic sentiments there from our third place finisher, Billy Northcutt. We're going to give one more try to William Hargraves. I believe DJ's caught up with him again.
I have indeed. We're going to try this again. William, we heard Brandon talking about just how much you had him on edge. I've got to imagine you were in the same boat.
Looks like we might not have our mic issues solved for William Hargraves. We'll give him a couple another seconds here to see if we can get this one sorted out. Certainly would love to hear what it was like from his end. And it looks like, unfortunately, we're not going to get to talk to him, sadly. So we're going to close out with a big thank you ourselves to the Bootleg Racing League for bringing us back for another season of coverage. But we also want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or you can check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race will be at Kokomo, Friday, April 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.